Greg's going to be our next speaker. He was the Director of Communications at Oregon-Idaho Conference. Now that he's retired, does anybody in church really retire? No, you just find a new way to do ministry. So he volunteers on the media team at Christ UMC in the Cedar Mills suburb of Portland. Is that right? Okay. So Greg is a member of this Facebook group, and he posted about what his church is doing. So what took you by surprise? I mean, first, tell us about the software, the equipment that you use, get this going, because I think it was a pretty quick turnaround, right?
Yeah, so last Saturday I walked in for a meeting with us to test, and I thought we were going to do like one camera Facebook Live. Well, the pastor's like, I want to have a panel discussion and the musicians are going to be over here. And somebody else said, hey, I checked out this thing called Switcher Studio. And in a couple of hours, we had it all set up. So Switcher Studio, and I'll let you go to their website, which is switcherstudio.com. That's pretty easy. So Switcher Studio is a licensed software product. So for first thing is you don't have to worry about getting something delivered in time. There's a free trial that works fully functional, except that it has their logo on it and some branding. So you can completely test it without contributing any money. And then it's a $31 monthly licensing subscription. So the setup we did was to, from an iPad mini, one person controlled the program, and we set up 3 iPhones in the room at 3 different camera angles, which I ran around to change the angle. One thing about live streaming is you don't want to be doing a lot of camera movement. You want lockdown shots because that lowers your data stream, and it just makes life easier. Zooming iPhones, they're not really made for live zooming. And some of us who've run professional cameras get frustrated about that, but you want to think about lockdown from this angle, lockdown from that angle. So we were able to, but it also has titling in it. So I'm going to share a couple of pictures with you. No, not from there. So that was the adapter I showed you earlier. And then move this window out of the way. Oh, when you share, your windows get in the way. Just a second, folks. This is the reality of, there we go. So here we were able to get titling of, and you just build these in ahead and you can add them just like you would on those who've used professional video systems, you just do it. So we had a different camera angle. Our pastor did a discussion. These are 2 emergency room doctors that came to talk with him, and they talked about the realities of it. Notice they're holding microphones close to their face, and the pastor is wearing his headset microphone. And we had musicians that, again, were over there, and we were able to do titling with those. Some more audio tips are, we did run through the churches. We were in the sanctuary, we're running through the soundboard, and the speakers in the room were turned off. We're not amplifying in the room, we're just mixing through it. So the guy at the soundboard, he had to listen on headphones to make sure he was getting the right balance. We also mic'd the piano. And so we're running this through the soundboard, in our case on an auxiliary channel. You could run it through the main channel too. And the guy on the headphones has to be listening, and he also has to be communicating with the person that's running the switcher device, because it has an audio meter. Because the number one thing about audio is if you overdrive the inputs when you're doing live feeding, it just distorts badly and quickly. So you always want to be on the lower side of your audio level in that safe zone. So we were able to do that. Speakers were off. These folks were talking and singing, acoustic piano, and he had to listen to it. Another guy switched it, running around with cameras. So that's what we put together in a couple of hours. We were able to test it, try it, did an upload live. And then during the program, the whole thing fell apart. What fell apart was our Facebook stream died. And at that point, we weren't quite sure how to restart it. Now, we kept going. We kept going with the service because the Switcher Studio is also recording it at the same time. And then we were able to quickly post the full version recording also. Um, we also had another person who was doing comments live. So our choice was that we wanted to be really interactive. And as Patrick said earlier, you kind of need a pastor who thinks and works that way. So he was able to say, you know, hey, what kind of comments are we getting? Who's there? Do we have prayer requests and stuff? So we were able to do that live through the comments channel on Facebook Live, which you would be able to do with the comments in YouTube also in other ways. There were a couple questions that came up. So somebody asked, we talked about bandwidth for just a second earlier, and somebody said, what is the right bandwidth? I never can get a clear question to that. Switcher Studio said that their minimum upload was 3 megabits per second. I would say that's really a minimum. I don't even start the conversation without making, if I go into a venue and I want to make sure I'm buying upload, I want to make sure I've got at least 5. I'm a lot happier with 10. Our church just increased our system so that we have 20 as our upload speed, making use of Comcast's Xfinity. But we think this was part of the problem we had. So something we've done this week is our networking guy and I got together and we put in a dedicated router using 5G networking so that the devices that are doing the video, which have to be on the same network, they'll be the only things on that network, and the router is located very close to them, and it's using 5G, the fastest speed. So that's one of the things we're trying to do to make this week's better. And I guess one of the things I say here is you want to do what you're comfortable with, and you want to be proud of the fact that you're doing something. Don't be too worried that you're not doing what Jeremy Smith's doing in Seattle or what somebody else is doing. Think about your audience and where they're at. We're trying to go with Facebook because we already had a fairly engaged Facebook group. We already had a Friends of the Church Facebook group. We already have people that comment a lot. So we sort of felt like we could build on that. I certainly know that other groups we also have circle groups who are now talking to people about, are you on Facebook? Can we help you do that? That's one of the possibilities. But the other piece I want to say is don't think about this as just Sunday morning. Our pastor is now doing a morning devotion on Facebook every day at 8 o'clock, just from his home, just streaming it. And Facebook users, you need to be an admin, and you want to make sure you have the Facebook page app on your phone. That gives you a better channel for starting a video in the name of the page, not your personal account.
There was anything about the experience that took you by surprise, or other pieces that our participants need to consider?
Well, the having the stream drop, and we're not still, actually, maybe somebody else knows a good answer for how you restart the stream. We're a little worried about if we were to stop and restart it, then that would break the recording and stuff. So since we were 38 minutes into a 45-minute service, we just plugged on. The other thing about bandwidth is you're not the only responsible party. You need the upload speed, but it depends on the download speed of what everybody else has. So somebody was telling me, yeah, it kind of kept cutting out and stuff. And then finally she said, of course, I was driving in my car at the time. So in the world of the internet, any signal you put out, any email message you put out, goes through potentially hundreds or thousands of other devices and links, and anyone along the way can be the one that interferes with your signal.
So I can share a little bit about what I've noticed happening a lot on our end is, maybe we get really excited about, I want to share, I'm going to have some PowerPoint slides and a video that I'm going to show, and then I'm going to demonstrate how to do this on the website at the same time while you're streaming, in this case, your Zoom session. It is going to work much better. You're taxing your device way less if you don't have all those tabs open. If you can have any of your stuff ready to go on your computer, there's sites where you can download a YouTube video. A lot of times Vimeo lets you download directly from Vimeo. There's different options like that. It's almost like the live stream versus pre-record conversation, if you want a better chance of a solid output, have all of your resources ready to go on your computer. And by that, I don't mean reach out to the internet while you're trying to stream out your content.
Right. And don't have Outlook running in the background.
Yeah.
It's a processing hog. Um, you really just want to say, it, in most church settings or production settings, there's always a dedicated computer just for this function. You may not have the ability to do that, but you want to make sure that you're not, don't have a lot of tabs open or other stuff. Yeah. So Allison, I'm going to click the answer live. Allison says she's in a rural location, has just increased her bandwidth to the highest level upstream capacity of 2 megabits. That's probably a sign to not necessarily be doing live. If you were to use the pre-record and then upload it to YouTube, and then do comments, then schedule it, or schedule a premiere and then have a comment session as it plays, kind of let's all watch it today at 10 o'clock. That would be an option. But the 2 megabit thing would make me nervous. The other thing about uploading to YouTube a pre-recorded video that you've done on another device, that's the easiest way to connect to YouTube. You don't have to worry about connecting to the live stream and getting the right settings in for YouTube. There are a lot of great devices out now, by the way, for live streaming. And if you're buying from a live stream service, sometimes they provide the device, but you can buy devices that some of them have cellular interfaces and stuff, or Wi-Fi interfaces. They're always best when they're hardwired to the Ethernet. So those devices kind of take care of some of this handshaking. I at one point had one from a company called Teradek, but if you go, I'll make a plug here for B&H Photo, by the way. B&H Photo is not just cameras, it's a wide variety of audiovisual equipment, has a very friendly return policy, but also always has full details and specs and great reviews from professionals who are using their equipment. They're out of New York, and great to know. Closed, including their website for taking orders on all Jewish holidays. Richard asks about OBS software, and I have used OBS software. This is the free streaming software that you can use on a computer. And you can then plug a webcam in, or you can use an interface to another external video signal using OBS software. That's what I know Pacific Northwest Conference uses for their live streaming of annual conference session. Oregon Idaho did it for a while, and then I bought a dedicated box. The challenge with OBS can be the process of making sure you've got all the settings right. But it's a fully functional thing. If you're tech comfortable, there's also videos. David mentioned YouTube videos. There's a lot of people who are proud of their work and are happy to share it on YouTube. And mostly they're right. So there's stuff about how to set up OBS YouTube videos and stuff. So that would be a way to do it. Yes, certainly consider OBS if you want to take the plunge into streaming without having to buy hardware, except for a computer.
For your church, Greg, did you guys end up altering your worship service, or will you do that as you go along?
Yeah, in fact, we're not even calling it online worship. We're calling it online gathering. And this process, like you saw the picture I showed where Rick was doing an interview. So instead of a 20-minute standing there sermon, and I've seen some pictures online of pastors standing in the middle of a chancel of an empty church, although one of them was really great because they had photos of the whole congregation in the pews so the pastor could look at those photos. But instead, he's pulled up a cafe table and he's sitting and he's doing part of it as interview, and then he's doing a shorter sermon version, and to really try to bring some intimacy into it and build the relationship aspects. A big part of worship is about community. So the question is, if our value is community, what can we do in this medium that builds community? And that's different than what you do when you're all in the same room together, lined up in pews or rows of chairs. The music you share, well, yeah, maybe they're singing along at home, but you want to do things that are comfortable and known to people. And it's really a performance by your musician or musicians. So you want to think about that. Um, like we didn't stream the words to the songs um, because it's always out of time and stuff. I mean, if you've ever, some of us who have been in Zoom meetings know that people think, oh, let's all read this together in a Zoom meeting, and it doesn't work. Yeah, thank you, Beth. um, so, so that's one of the factors to is say, this is what we're doing now. So what's the best way to make use of this? And that's what somebody, if the sanctuary is too echoey and noisy, go into your chapel space, go into the pastor's office with the bookcase behind. Or our pastor did his morning reflection this morning, and he did it in his backyard, and the birds were singing and stuff. You don't have to be in church. Be outside your church or something if you can control, if you're doing something simple. So it just depends. And again, it comes back to what are you comfortable with? Do that. But I think this is like somebody said earlier, I think Beth said it, there's a new opportunity here for building relationship in these challenging times. And it's not necessarily to recreate the different experience you have on Sunday mornings.